The editorial board. Every day is January 6th now. Are you able to see this on my screen?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read three excerpts. Talking about how people want to move on from January 6th. They said, this is an understandable impulse after 4 years of chaos, cruelty, incompetence, culminating in a pandemic and the once unthinkable trauma of January 6th. Most Americans were desperate for some peace and quiet. In short, the Republic faces an existential threat from a movement that is openly contemptuous of democracy and has shown that it is willing to use violence to achieve its end. No governing society can survive such a threat by denying it exists. Rather, survival depends on looking back and forward at the same time. Finally, they reference Adam Kinzinger, a Republican. The thing that's most concerning is that it has endured in the face of all evidence, said Representative Adam Kinzinger, one of the vanishingly few Republicans in Congress who remain committed to empirical reality and representative democracy. Kinzinger finishes. And I've got to wonder if there's actually any evidence that would ever change certain people's minds. When you read that, what are some of the things that stick out to you as blatant propaganda? They're continuing to do the same thing they did when they said Poland invaded Germany many moons ago.
I think in that case, it's the title. Every day is January 6th. Every day now. We obviously that's not the case, right? Today wasn't January 6th, not literally and not figuratively, because there wasn't any protests on Capitol Hill. It was just another day. So what they're saying to you is, we want you to think every day is January 6th. That's just like, I remember many years ago, there was a protest in London against Israel, and people were holding a sign, or many people holding signs saying, we are all Hezbollah now. Meaning we want you to think that we are all Hezbollah now. That is propaganda. It is trying to rally people to a cause. It is not trying to offer people a dispassionate and disinterested view of an issue. So in this case, there was a lot of purple language there. It was a lot of polarizing language in that editorial. It was a lot of either or. And again, this is one of those, as you point out, one of these traffic light moments where we say, when it was George W. Bush saying either you're with us or you're against us, that to the media and the sort of left-wing apparatus was the worst possible thing you could say. Either you're with us or against us is polarizing and divisive, and it tears people apart. And that was the line that he'd issued in response to the 9/11 attacks and the world, the posture in relation to America. Today we have the same thing. The New York Times is just telling you right there, either you are with us or you're against us. Either you're pro-democracy or you are pro-tyranny. And again, that's where you think to yourself, once you start to see the morality play, once you start to see this Manichaean posturing of good versus bad, and of course, it's always the speaker who is on the good side. It's always the speaker who is the hero, and anyone who is not only are they, if they're not fully in agreement, but anyone who's just not enthusiastically taking up the cause is a villain. So it doesn't leave you much space to exist as somebody in the middle who might say, okay, I look at January 6th, I was pretty horrified. People desecrating the Capitol building and committing acts of violence that I think are horrendous. If I were there and able to shout at all those people to tell them, stop what you're doing, this is horrible, I would do that. That doesn't mean that I think it was a coup d'etat. And it doesn't mean that I also have to believe that it was some sort of planned insurrection. I don't think there really is an empirical, to use their words, an empirical basis for thinking that this was some sort of planned attempt to overthrow the United States government. Maybe there was rhetoric referencing that, and maybe there was some sort of populistic and almost some fabulistic and sort of this fantasy in motion that was just never going to come to play, given who these people are. And we can be in the middle. It's okay. And I think that's the thing that the media hates being in the middle. It's not sexy. It doesn't drive clicks. It doesn't drive ad views. And that is, again, the problem where we come back to, we see a broken model. And I think the point that I always really try to emphasize when I'm talking about the New York Times in relation to my book is that people often neglect to look at the financial motivations. We're always talking about the ideological motivation, but you have to understand the New York Times, as just one example, as a $10 billion company controlled by a very small number of people who are all family members. And you can just take that model and look at it for NBC Universal, for ABC News, for Vox Media, for just pick any of these major brands. They are financial organizations that at the end of the day are answerable to people who have financial responsibilities to stockholders or to owners or investors. And that's the thing we need to understand here, is that this is a broken model. It's a model that is not, it is perversely incentivized. It is not incentivized to deliver cold, hard fact. It is incentivized to deliver rabble-rousing, fear-mongering, purple, divisive, actionable material that gets people to change their behavior. And the behaviors that they want to change are willingness to subscribe to the New York Times for $10 a month or $5 a month, whatever it is, or to go to a news website and to look at their ads and sign up for their email newsletters, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the heart of the matter, is that we have a broken industry. Just as we've talked for years and years about big pharma and big ag and big finance, we have never really talked about big media. And I think it's probably time that we do.